what's up, y'all? Welcome back. I'm Van. We are all the LFR family. I just now did a video where Black conservative perspective, Greg Foreman, I believe that's his name. Hopefully I got that right. If I mess it up, man, charge it to my mind and my heart. He was having a debate with another gentleman who's on the left, but it was one of the videos I just released. They was talking about teaching critical race theory in schools and talking about systemic racism in schools. Greg Foreman, he was against it. He was like, what's the point? There's a bunch of other things we need to pay attention to. There's some really serious things going on in the community, Black community specifically, and in the country worldwide. I mean, and in the country overall, that we need to pay attention to those things so we can move forward. And he was like, no, we need to teach these things. This is what the gentleman was saying. I need to remember his name, man. I will before the end of this video, but the reason why I'm bringing that up is because, okay, y'all want to talk about critical race theory? You want to talk about systemic racism? Well, Tucker Carlson is covering this. And I want y'all to see this right here, because this right here is extremely interesting, what he's bringing up. He got actual graphs. He got facts. He got, let's see this, and y'all tell me whatever y'all want me to know.
Please prove it. According to a 2009 study by Princeton sociologist Tom Espenshade, selective schools currently boost Black applicants to the point that whites are penalized 310 points on the SAT for being white. Asians are penalized 450 points for being Asian.
Whew.
Talk about systemic racism.
Now, these people are being penalized simply for being white and Asian. Why are they being penalized for being white and Asian? They're being penalized because right now, when it comes to how they're testing at the top right now. I think Asians are at the top. White Americans are next. And then I believe is Hispanics after that. Overall, I think after I think they measured like 6 or 7 different race groups, and African Americans were at the bottom. So for them to try to even the scale a little bit, like slavery, you know, y'all went through slavery, and plus you get discriminated against every day, and you probably can't focus on your studies. So we're going to make sure we push you ahead in the line. Well, what happens, like Thomas Sowell says, when you do that to somebody and they're not ready, they will end up dropping out. So you push them to the front of the line so they can get into these universities, and then they're not able to keep up, and they end up dropping out. And the person that could have been in that slot was someone who earned that position, someone who's able and capable of being able to perform at a high level. At a high level, they lost out because they were simply not African American. This right here is about to get real interesting. And if I say something to offend you, it's not my business.
How is that allowed in this country? Well, good question. And if anything, this systemic racism, and that's exactly what it is, it's racism at the systemic level, has intensified over the past decade, in case you haven't noticed. In 2020, a trial court found that at Harvard, skin color was determinative in admissions for more than half of all admitted African American applicants and roughly 1/3 of Hispanic applicants. How patronizing, by the way, to them. Look at this chart. It shows the average SAT score for admitted students by race at Harvard from 2000 to 2017.
Man, look at this right here, bro. Look at this right here. Sorry, I said bro. I got women watching too, so my apologies, ladies. Y'all know how I love the ladies. Y'all are amazing. I'm not flirting. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying I said bro, and some of you might have taken offense to that. All right, so look at this right here. Yellow is the white people. That's the white man. African American is the orange. That's at the bottom. At the top, and we're talking about SAT scores here, Asian Americans are at the top. Y'all see that? Now, these people are being discriminated against, and why? Why are they being held back so that other people can get a chance to be a part of these institutions? If you want to be in these institutions, pay attention to what's important. Study your ASS off. Huh? How about you do that? How about you stop focusing on dumb sugar honey iced tea and focus on what's real so that you can perform better and so that you can get better opportunities? The people that's telling you, the people that see, What's this daggone dude name, man? I apologize, man, but I gotta find this dude name. He's teaching people. He's telling people that we were held back, and because of slavery and racism and all these other things, and African Americans have been treated unfairly, and because of that, we haven't been able to study properly. The things that they put in our schools, how they teach us in our schools, is not competitive, and we aren't getting what we need in order to achieve the goals that we need to achieve. But this same guy, what is his daggone name? He's the same that said,
can men give birth?
Sometimes. That's my answer. Yeah.
But the reason why I bring him up is because this dude is a lawyer. This dude was able, he's an African American, he was able to study, he was able to focus, he was able to go out there and accomplish his goals. He was able to do all that. But he's saying that all of y'all not. And the reason why y'all not is because let's pull any excuse out the air. That's what he's doing. And Greg Foreman was like, nah, that's stupid. We need to focus on what's real.
It's almost unbelievable
Look at these
how
numbers.
different the standards are.
It's crazy.
And this is happening, of course, not simply at Harvard and not simply at other schools, but all over the entire society. A few years ago, a senior fellow at AEI called Mark Perry found that Black and Hispanic students were heavily favored for admission into medical school.
Oh my gracious.
Black students who had below average test scores were 7 times more likely to be accepted into medical school compared to white students with similar below average scores.
Why? You're not helping them out by doing that. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
And they were 9 times more likely when compared to Asian students with similar scores. That's medical school. In the end, you will have bad doctors, not because African American students make bad doctors, but because the process of picking people on the basis of irrelevant criteria, like their skin tone, is insane.
We don't care about having good doctors or bad doctors. As long as we got representation, that's all we need.
It has nothing to do with medicine at all. In fact, the practice itself discredits the medical schools that engage in it because it's so anti-science. This should make you uneasy. But wait, it gets worse. Here's an exchange from today. Clarence Thomas asked the Solicitor General what the educational benefits of affirmative action might be. Here's the response.
So the most concrete possible scenario is stock trading. And there are studies that find that racially diverse groups of people making trading decisions perform at a higher level, make more efficient trading decisions. And the mechanism there is that it reduces groupthink, and people have longer and more sustained disagreement, and that leads to a more efficient outcome.
Well, I guess I don't put much stock in that because I've heard similar arguments in favor of segregation too.
Racial quotas decrease groupthink and allow for a diversity
That was a mic drop right there.
of viewpoint? Really, you live in a society that's defined by racial quotas. Is there more or less groupthink than there was when you were a kid? Is there a greater or smaller diversity of views than there used to be? It's insane. But the point is, to Clarence Thomas, it sounded very familiar. Quote, I've heard similar arguments in favor of segregation too, said Thomas, who grew up under Jim Crow in Georgia. Not surprising, because all racist arguments sound the same because fundamentally they are the same. Give me this because of how I was born. It was wrong then, it's every bit as wrong now. The difference is we no longer acknowledge the victims of it, and most are too ashamed to say a word, but millions of them exist by definition. There are people like Caitlin Younger, who's a middle-class white girl from Texas with no family connections or special advantages. All she had was hard work and intelligence. She scored a near-perfect 1550 on the SAT.
God gracious, that lady is a genius. My gracious, they probably saying, look, you're white. Clearly you're smart. You'll get other opportunities. Don't worry about it. Just let this person get in front of you. Come on. They grew up without their dad. You deal with. Okay, you don't have a dad, but at least you're white. Crack was in your neighborhood too, but at least you're white, right? So let them get the opportunity.
Apparently, she thought the system was fair enough to acknowledge her achievement. She was told, work hard, do the right thing, and you'll be rewarded. Oh, but she wasn't, and we know why. She was turned down from every selective college she applied to because of her skin color. How do you feel about that? How do liberals feel about that? Does anyone really want to live in a country like that? Well, if you do, Kristin Clark does. Clark runs the so-called Civil Rights Division at DOJ. Clark didn't get the job because she cares about civil rights.
She didn't.
No.
She did not. And that's the type of stuff that pisses me off, because there are high-level African Americans all over this country, but they still take up the mantle to teach this bull sugar honey iced tea to other people as if we cannot achieve it regardless of our skin color. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. I get it. You want to make sure that you remind people of what we went through. Listen, I am completely for people understanding from where they've come and understanding those times and how resilient our people had to be in order to get through those things in those times. I get that. I have no issue with people like making sure other African Americans understand their culture and their past and their history. Because guess what? Our culture lacks culture. Our culture lacks culture. When you go in most black people's houses, they don't have pictures of their great-grandparents on the wall. They don't even know who their great-grandparents are. Seldomly, they'll know the matriarchs. And that comes by way of the parents making sure that they know who they are. But do not try to instill in these young people's minds that they cannot achieve what the white man is achieving simply because your ancestors went through something. And because they went through something and how the system is set up, you can't go through it. How dare you be in a position where you have achieved so much, have accomplished so much, but you're talking down on your own people, telling them that they can't do it. That's BS, man. It's BS.
She was hired because she opposes civil rights, and she has her entire public life. In 2020, she's also imbalanced. Clark declared publicly that her political opponent should be killed. In response to a video of people chanting "Fire Fauci," here's what she wrote. We're quoting. Head of the Civil Rights Division. These people should be publicly identified and named, barred from treatment at any public hospital if and when they fall ill, and denied coverage under their insurance. Oh, just genocide them. Okay, that was her solution.
But what's wild is it's okay for us to talk like that. If you're black, if you are black, you can say whatever you want to say to anyone, to any race. And it's sad because we feel like we're so entitled, but we like to point at other people and say how entitled they are. Who's the most entitled people in the country? We say the white woman, the white man. Bull, sugar, honey, ice, tea.
So affirmative action allows lunatics with violent fantasies like Kristin Clark to ascend to power. And they can do that because as they become more powerful, they continue to claim that they are victims. But they're not victims. Kristin Clark went to private school before she went to college. Of course, she's a product of privilege. What's interesting is that even as they tell you affirmative action is our single most important social policy, you're not allowed to single out any individual person who's benefited from it. Oh, it's great, but you can't say you got your job because of it. And of course, it's totally not allowed to point out that people like Kristin Clark are unqualified for the jobs they hold. It's an insult to protected groups. But how are those protected groups doing? Are they benefiting from generations of affirmative action? Oh, no, they're not. The kids of doctors are benefiting from affirmative action. And we know that. SAT results for black high school students are still abysmal. No one's helping them. 25% of Asian high schoolers in Michigan, for example, scored above a 1400 last year in the SAT. What percentage of black kids did? 0. So how are they being helped? Well, they're not being helped. Again, the children of nonprofit executives and doctors and network news anchors and Barack Obama, they're all benefiting. But the people who need it are getting no benefit whatsoever. In fact, they're being completely ignored. This is nonsensical, it's immoral, and it's ridiculous. And so, not surprisingly, the arguments we're hearing in favor of it today. According to Scientific American, for example, science compels a racial spoil system. This is real. Quote, the Supreme Court could destroy affirmative action in higher education, and STEM professionals, science, must stand against the white supremacy and scientific racism that fuels arguments against it. So you're a white supremacist if you're against racial discrimination. Okay. Now, in a normal world, you would just
I'm sorry. This is comical. Y'all like, this isn't comical. This is bad. No, it's comical. I don't trip off that right there, man. It's just comical. Because when you look at it, and everybody don't test the same. My baby girl has taken the SATs 3 times. 3 times. And she still can't get the grade. She still can't get the score she wants. She still can't. And she's a senior in high school. Her GPA, her cumulative GPA is a 4.3. 4.3, between 4.3 and 4.6 or something like that. She's extremely intelligent. When it comes to taking that SAT test, she just doesn't test like that. She's just not that type of, when it comes to SAT tests, sitting there for 3 hours and making sure that she, dot all her I's, cross off all her T's, make sure she does everything properly, that right there gets to her in some type of way. So I can't say that she's bad at tests, because in order to get the grade she's getting in school, she has to take quizzes and she has to take tests. And she clearly has done well in both of them, and she has a cumulative of 4.3. All right. But she just don't take the SAT well. Here's the thing. I mean, she still got a decent score. Here's the thing, though. She got a good score, just not the score she wanted. But she don't need any help. She don't need any affirmative action to help her out. Here's the thing with a lot of these black people who are becoming lawyers and doctors, or running for office, and they've gone to private schools all their lives and all this other stuff. They have a nice serving of black guilt. And they feel like they've always had it better than other black people, and they want to give back, completely deny everything that happened for them. They will say, no, I bust my tail to get where I am. Well, isn't that the same thing for other African Americans? Shouldn't they bust their tail to get where they want to be, right? That's what I would think. But that's just me.
Dismiss that out of hand because it's deranged. It's the opposite of the truth. You are not a racist for arguing on behalf of a colorblind society. You are a good person arguing against bad people. In fact, arguing against racists. But they've inverted that and successfully cowed people into silence. So Joe Biden's Solicitor General, the former Miss Idaho he hired, argued today that affirmative action is somehow vital for national security too. Watch.
Our armed forces know from hard experience that when we do not have a diverse officer corps that is broadly reflective of a diverse fighting force, our strength and cohesion and military readiness suffer. So it is a critical national security imperative to attain diversity within the officer corps. And at present, it's not possible to achieve that diversity without race-conscious admissions, including at the nation's service academies. The military experience confirms what this court recognized in Grutter, that in a society where race unfortunately still matters in countless ways, achieving diversity can sometimes require conscious acts by our leading educational institutions.
Okay, so does she know anything about the subject, Miss Idaho? Do you? No, she doesn't. The U.S. military was the single most impressive institution in American life for generations, precisely because it was meritocratic.
I don't even know why Tucker is even giving her a moment of his time debunking what she's saying. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous, bro. I think it's all, I don't know, man. This whole thing pisses me off. I don't even want to focus on it, because when I raise my kids, I teach them to go out and get what they want. If you want it bad enough, go get it. Work hard for it. Now, are there things still effed up in this country? Yep. Are those things because of white people? Some of them. Are those things because of black people? Some of them. Have I ever been robbed by a white person? Nope. Have I ever been taken advantage of by a white person? Probably. Don't know. I honestly don't know that. Here's the thing. I do know this. The black community is being held back by the black community because we continue to try and hold other people accountable and receive help while not doing the work ourselves. The people who are at the top with the microphone and the megaphones, those people are doing their part. But because of black guilt, or because they see that they can profit from it, they come back to the community and say, yeah, we don't have it fair here. We don't have our fair share. We need to make the blah, 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 blah. We need our fair share. And what's wild is I used to look at President Obama like he was a hero when he used to say that. Not realizing, bro, you've gotten far more than your fair share. Far more than your fair share. So is your wife. So are your kids. Y'all are getting far more than your fair share. And no one handed it to you. Listen. I know of the stories of him being tied into other families of power and some of the favors that they got, and probably even the job that he had was handed to him. Listen, that's not my business. I don't know enough about it to speak on it. But I do know this. If he was capable and able, if he was able to go to school and bust his tail, having an immigrant father, white mother, and still be able to do well, the gall of him to tell other people that they are held back and they can't do it and they need the help, that just says that you're just saying this for your job, and it's BS. It's disingenuous. But you know what? Who am I? I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to judge anybody. I'm just saying it's BS. Y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know, all right? That was pretty dope, and I'm glad I checked it out, and I'm even more glad y'all checked it out with me, all right? I'll see y'all next time. Love y'all. Bye.